People endure in a lot of different ways. Some of us, we endure with drama. People need to know I'm enduring, right? I got this stuff going on, and I'm going to push through it if it kills me. And then there are others who endure pretty much invisibly. They don't make a big deal of it. They don't. They don't. There's no drama in it. I had a friend who was dear to me, who he had. I've never known anyone who had as many medical, and I don't mean hypochondriac kind of things. I mean absolutely serious medical issues. My gosh, kidney transplant, let's see, 12 eye surgeries before he was 18. Lost both legs from the knee down. He had from time he was 8 or 9, juvenile diabetes, which that, as you probably know, that doesn't go away and it doesn't get any better, and eventually implications and ramifications of that took his life. He had lots to be dramatic about. He had lots of, he could have made all kinds of continual commentary on his physical struggles, but he didn't. He endured. And if you had encountered him at a restaurant or at church, you wouldn't have known. You really wouldn't have known. That's how I would love to have the fortitude, the guts to endure. I am, unfortunately, quite a bit more dramatic in my endurance. Well, on one hand, the point is not so much how you endure, but that you endure. It's the objective of endurance is to finish. The friend I just talked about finished really well. And at his funeral, the little church was packed to the gills. And the service took a long time because there were many who needed to speak and eulogize, and there was so much to say. Paul, like we've been talking about this for lots of different installments here. This is from 1 Timothy chapter 6. But you, man of God, flee from all this and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. Now, on one side of it, you've got some really forceful things, I guess I would say. Righteousness, godliness, faith, endurance. And on the other, some things that might be softer. Love and gentleness. Now, I talk about love ad nauseum. And one of the things about love is that it's not just soft and cushy. There is such thing as tough love, We hear about it and talk about it in reference to people who have family members that are addicted and not yet recovering. That you can't just continue to make it easy for them to stay stuck, to be held hostage by the deception, they deceive themselves and others, and it's just it becomes a tire fire. So love is not just a romantic emotional feeling. But love is a noun and a verb. Now, I think it's easily, when I say easily, is it easily? I think it is surely the most powerful force in all of our lives. And then the last attribute here, the last thing for Timothy to pursue is gentleness. Now let's think about that for a minute. So what does gentleness look like? You can define it and then describe it. Gentleness? Well, I think for me, I have to define it and contrast to things that are not gentle. And this is just me, but a very, mean, judgmental, forceful. Now you have to contrast gentleness there. One of the places that I see this playing itself out is in families and marriages. Can you imagine? Now, some of you don't have to imagine it because you've lived through a relationship, a marriage or family relationship where there wasn't gentleness. It was all about this firmness, about this grit. Well, there's lots of problems with that. And you don't need me to tell you about those problems. You already know. There are many deep, difficult problems that especially in our early years, if our environment, the way we grew up was all on that firm, gritty side, it's hard. It is very hard to move through that season of your life feeling nurtured. Now, okay, I don't need to go deeply into that. What I want to say is every parent, every grandparent, every husband, every wife needs to think deeply and question themselves as to their gentleness. Now, gentleness doesn't necessarily, in fact, it does not mean, we just ignore stuff. Just don't, get over it. No. It doesn't pretend that good is in everything and that everybody's good. No. Gentleness is realistic. Gentleness, in a sense, is how we apply all of the other 5 things that Paul tells Timothy to pursue. Righteousness, but with gentleness. Godliness, but with gentleness. Faith, with gentleness. Love, with gentleness. Endurance, gently. The people in my life who have been most influential, who have their example has shaped me more than anyone else, have been gentle people. They were firm, but gentle. All 5 of these things were present in their life, but they were gentle in the way they applied all these things. What difference does that make to you and me? Well, see, I think it goes in 2 directions. Gentleness has to be applied in relationships. I mean, that's its context. To be gentle with others. All right, now, if I'm pursuing these other 5 things, righteousness, godliness, faith, love, and endurance, to pursue them means to chase after them with intention, right? And I got to be intentional. Sometimes I can be so intentional, so focused in on those things, I lose track of anything else and anyone else in my world. And that can become a problem. I think that's essentially what happens when people become legalistic. They lose sight of, they don't observe the context that we're talking about people here, souls that are precious to God. You treat those souls who are precious to God with gentleness. Think about Jesus. The only people he seems to not be gentle with are the Pharisees, the legalists of his day. To the sinner, he was gentle. Not so much to the religious. To the irreligious, he was gentle because he understood. Well, I want to take his example for my own life. That gentleness has to be applied to the people around me. Because if I'm going to pursue righteousness without gentleness, I will become rigid and legalistic. I know me. That's how I will be. If I'm going to pursue godliness without gentleness, I will, if you're not measuring up to my standards of godliness, you're out of here. I've got to apply gentleness. Okay, you get what I'm saying. When you think of your life in the context of relationships, gentleness is not an option. It's a requirement. And then there is this one other aspect of gentleness that I think some of us will do well to contemplate. You know, the one in my counseling, I often encounter that the people who get the least kind of gentle application, right, in their lives are themselves. They are less gentle with themselves than anyone. Shame is a huge factor in this, but shame promotes the idea that they are bad. Not that they have behaved poorly, but that they are bad. And because of that, there's no gentleness with themselves. Maybe today we need to be gentle with everybody in our scope here. Everyone in our world could benefit from gentleness, even people who need correction. And would it not make some sense that we could use gentleness from ourselves? Well, believe it or not, we'll get to move on next time. when we get together on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.